So the main one is the modeling dough, and that involves a little cup of Play-Doh for each student, and like 3 plastic knives for each table as like some of them, right. That's another expectation we actually have to review. But actually, it wasn't a problem at all. They're just, we gave them the trust from the beginning, and they don't.
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue. Plastic knives, or they use their rulers, or they use other things to cut it up. It's not an issue. And then the sheet protector with a white piece of paper inside, that's actually on the back side is a factor game we played at the beginning of the year, so we're just reusing those as placemats. So every student gets that. And the PowerPoint is it's a big teaching tool for us. We always have a PowerPoint, not like copy this down, but as we were saying, just it has the time in the corner, so like how long each section of the class should last and the actual time.
Helps keep us on track.
It keeps us accountable, totally.
And holds us to like a more efficient class. So, and then a big one is CMP3, Connected Math from Pearson, and that program is the textbook and all of the materials that we use to kind of structure the trajectory of the unit. And so that's where we got kind of the title, Finding Parts of Parts. We created the Do Now together based on an activity that we did that wasn't in the book, based on a modification of an assignment that Kata created. So the Do Now, the kind of extended Do Now is more that they're using the modeling for, is more, it's hopefully will be more engaging just because it's something we created, so it's like for them. But then Connected Math is pretty engaging also, and they're going to then, towards the end of class, they're going to be working on Investigation 2.1, which does cover multiplying fractions and finding parts of parts, and they're going to be using a brownie example, like fundraising with brownies. So.
The modeling dough came from me lying in bed being like, how am I going to teach fractions? They were so scary to me. And just, and having a boss that says like, yeah, go put Play-Doh in the room. Great. Go for it.
Didn't we find like a Pinterest article or something?
Is that what it was?
Legos. That was Legos.
Oh, it was Legos. Yeah.
But we saw this, I saw this cool post that was like using Legos to teach fractions, which was really cool. And it started getting me thinking like, oh my God, how are we going to teach fractions? And then Kata was like, I've got it. Like, let's give them all Play-Doh. And I was like, oh no. Oh yes, that sounds great and messy and fun. So yeah, so we did that.
And we've done it twice and it's worked. So that's kind of our decision to continue to use it. And it's always in the room for if you want to opt in to use it when they know that when they're working on a problem, even if it's not a Play-Doh day, they can still opt to use it. What materials? I mean, CMP3 is the curriculum that we use here, but we enjoy it. It helps guide our investigations. It's very
and we don't always. Sometimes we take lessons like out of order, or we decide to do things a little bit different. CMP3 is a very investigative approach, so it allows students to kind of like dig in and figure out the concepts. In fractions, we've found that I think partially due to our own experiences with fractions, they can be kind of scarring, speaking for myself here. And so we decided we are letting them investigate fractions, and then we're teaching them rules. There are some rules you just can't sometimes amorphously talk about fractions and then estimate however you want. And then, so we are making sure to teach them, here's how you do it and here's the thought behind it, but we're making sure to give them time for them to kind of figure out those strategies on their own, and then kind of being yeah, you're right, these are the strategies we use, here's why, let's review that together. And being a little bit more explicit at times with teaching the skills, just to make sure that they're all on that same foundational level, because there is a wrong way to multiply fractions, you know, and so we don't want them investigating and then doing it wrong and then not being told that they're doing it. So that's the only issue sometimes with Connected Math, is it's sometimes too investigative.
We have to strike a balance of explicitly acknowledging misconceptions and addressing people who are just oh, yep, you just cross multiply. What does that mean? Or find the reciprocal. And so kind of breaking apart or unlayering stuff that gets thrown into the investigations and defining words and things like that.
Overall, I do love the investigative approach of connected math. It's really great. Last year it was super scary to work with for me, not being a confident math teacher. It was really hard because I was unsure how to do it, but seeing as it's my second year with the curriculum, I really like it. Like, it's really great the way that it lets students kind of figure out and play with the concepts before giving them a foundation.
It's one of the things where I feel the same way about it. I love it because it's like, try it out, see what happens. What could Amy do with her brownies at the fundraiser? But it does rely a lot on students taking very clear notes in class when we do that explicit instruction, because it's not one of those, they get like a flimsy workbook that you technically could write in, but they don't because we reuse them every unit. And so they get a flimsy workbook every unit. We reuse them year to year. I just want to clarify. But it's not like you can go back to like page 18 and it'll tell you how to find a part of a part. It'll give like a verbal explanation of like, when we overestimate in situations when you might want to make sure that you have enough or things like that. But it won't say like, and here's the mathematical like example for how to do it. So it does require that they take the explicit notes that we guide them through.
And that has been an issue with parents sometimes too, because parents are like, how do we help our kids? And we're like, have them look at their notes. And they're like, we can't find them. And we're like, oh, that's why we tell you to take good notes. So
it puts a lot on the students, but I think it's a great growing experience for them.
And if we scaffold each of the skills, we're really careful not to give homework that's too challenging. We're really trying to, you'll see one of the assessment tools that we're using to check for understanding on the lessons that we just finished. We're adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. And so one of the units, the lessons that we just gave homework for, were just like kind of some rote problems. Like, we just wanted to ensure that they got that skill. And literally it was good to give that rote homework, even though usually we give like more word problems, because we could just take one look and be like, ooh, they're not finding common denominators. Like, no, do it again. And then we'd give them a strip I'd glue like a strip of instructions on the top if they didn't find common denominators, and then they'd have to do that over. So we had a couple of kids who like came in and were like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, if it was that easy to just add the top and add the bottom, like we would have learned this in first grade. So
it lets you catch it right away.
Yeah, so we're gonna check for understanding on those two by collecting the homework at the beginning.
Nothing that...
Maybe for homework, sometimes it's hard to assign homework because a lot of the homework problems are very challenging, and they're word problems, and it can be really hard and challenging to assign students word problems when they're just learning a concept. So one of the things I would like to see is like more, like a lot of times we'll get worksheets or make up worksheets just so that we have something like that they can like just practice their skills on, like just like 5 like skill-based problems. And CMP3 doesn't always have those practice problems, so we have to outsource.
Have like a bank of just rote. Sometimes you just need to do it 4 times, and we'll have students self-identify. Like, I just need one more example. I just need one more practice problem. And it's hard when you have, it's not hard to create like addition problems with fractions, but it is when you have 15 other more important things to do. You don't want to think of like, all right, I already used 7 as a denominator, and now I should use 8. Like, you think about that stuff, and it seems like it would be simple to make up 7 problems, but it takes more time.
Yeah, you need to make sure that the multiples, they'll know the multiples, the LCM for the denominators, you know, and it's like, it does take a lot of time, and we end up spending a lot of time even looking for quality, like, practice sheets. I hate calling them worksheets because it sounds so like rote, but you know what I mean, like,
just need to,
like homework, you know, and we want to give them quality homework, but also we do a lot of differentiation too, because sometimes the homework in the workbook is inaccessible for some of our kids who struggle with foundational math. So like last week I made this like just like literally looking at pies, and they had to like just shade in the fractions just for continued repetition of those like fractions that are occurring all the time. So I do wish CMP3 had a little bit more differentiation options in terms of homework.
So, I mean, I think CMP3 tries really hard to present problems that kids can relate to. Like, they've been to fundraisers, they've eaten brownies, those little things are relevant to the students. And with the manipulatives, I mean, the Play-Doh I want to say fun for everyone. Maybe it's not, but it tends to be something that students enjoy, and I always. One of our goals, and I think that we're very good at this. This hasn't been like an explicit goal. Is like it's a happy place. Like it's a fun. Like our math class is like a fun, silly place. With it not like silly to a point, but like the wombats in the zoo. Like we'll have fun with that, and we have fun together. And I think that is a very relevant, personalized thing. Even if you walk out the door like not entirely remembering anything we did today, if you leave math class being like, okay, math class, yeah. It's so often I feel like the students' experience, at least with grown-ups I talk to now, are like, math class was like, math class. And that just shows that there's a lack of relevance or a lack of some sort of connection. So if their only connection to math class is like, we got to play with Play-Doh, or like you can do a math problem with something that you have at home, with a toy that you have at home, or it's okay that my brain, I would prefer to use just the whiteboard, because some people like push the Play-Doh to the side and just want to draw their own picture. Like all those little pieces of relevance of like finding the connection for each student. If like maybe you love wombats, great. Talk about wombats, but just do the fractions, and I don't know, make that your entire zoo. I think those little pieces of relevance in any of the materials we use is really valuable. Yeah,
it's definitely like it takes a lot. It's not just CMP3. Like it takes a lot to develop a classroom culture around a curriculum, and I think we've worked really hard to be consistent about that. And it's definitely not just the curriculum with the relevance and the engagement and things like that, but it's like our explicit work towards creating a supportive, fun, safe classroom community that builds an overall engagement towards the topic. It makes kids come in and even if we're doing one about fundraising and brownies and someone really doesn't care about fundraising and brownies and already knows how to multiply fractions, you'll still see a level of engagement with them because they understand that this is an important concept, even if it's only practice for them. So, and we try to get their feedback as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like they know that the space is there for them. If they're like using pizzas and it's like, I don't like pizza. Fine, sorry. Okay, yours is now a pumpkin pie. That's totally okay. Like they know that there's space for them to be like, can I make mine like a square thing of, I don't know, Jell-O, because I prefer Jell-O, and like that's giving them the like flexibility, the
choices to over the little things.
Identify what works for them and advocate for it, whether it's just changing what the food is in the problem or whether it's saying like, it's looking like these two are easy for me. I noticed at the bottom of the page is a more challenging one. Can I do that one? And like saying, yes, go for it. I think those all work together to create a more like, they feel like it's relevant to them, or that if it's not, it can be.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some kids still are like, math, but I think overall they like it. They don't hate it. So I think mission accomplished.
Yeah.